people have really different backgrounds and different skills, and they come to the table with different experiences, and a GPA is not always able to capture that.
Do you ever have so many questions and no one to ask, so they're just wasting away on Google searches you'll forget about in an hour or so?
We had that same problem, and that's why we created the RD2B podcast, a resource for dietetic and nutrition students looking for answers that their peers don't have.
We are students Macy and Emily and registered dietitian Carl Barnes. We engage in conversations and learn from RDs.
Join us weekly as we gain insight into the unique journeys of registered dietitians all over the country.
Welcome back to another week of the RD2B podcast. I'm your registered dietitian host, Carl Barnes. This is our weekly podcast where we showcase the diversity of opportunity in the profession for nutrition students across the country and globally. And so we are currently showcasing dietetic internships to kind of give the exposure of different programs so you can feel out what may be a fit for you, whether you are applying for programs shortly or you're looking ahead a few years to programs you may be wanting to apply for. So we're joined today by Amy LaFalce. She's from Virginia Tech's Dietetic Internship, and she's the site director or program director for the Northern Virginia part of the program. I'm very interested to hear about the Virginia Tech program and a little bit about you. Thanks for being here.
Sure, I'd love to. Thanks for having me, Emily. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So my name's Amy LaFalce, and I am the Northern Virginia site director for Virginia Tech's Internship in Nutrition and Dietetics. I've been in this position since 2013, and I love it. It's the greatest job in the world. People sometimes say, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I see myself right here. I love it. So that is what I do. I direct the Northern Virginia site, where I work with up to 10 new interns every year, placing them in supervised practice experiences to meet their individual learning needs and goals, and helping them to prepare for the registration exam to become registered dietitian nutritionists. Before coming to Virginia Tech, I worked as a clinical dietitian, and I also had some other experiences in like university wellness and consulting, and I worked as a clinical nutrition manager for a couple of years as well. Nutrition and dietetics is my second degree. So I originally studied kinesiology and psychology, and then went back to school for dietetics, and then earned my master's degree in exercise science. So kind of combined those areas to carve out a career that works well for me.
Awesome. So what type of programs does the Virginia Tech Internship offer, and how do they differ from the Nova or Blacksburg location?
Sure. Yeah. So Virginia Tech's internship program is unique in that it's a 2-site program. So we're one program with 2 directors. We have one calendar, one curriculum. The 2 directors, Carol Papillon and I, work very closely together. And we have 20 interns between the 2 of us, so kind of spread out between the Blacksburg site and the Northern Virginia site. But we are one like unified program. We do hold some class experiences jointly, on Zoom. And like I mentioned, our curriculum is the same, but obviously they're separated by geography. We also have at Virginia Tech a future graduate model program, which is a master's in nutrition and dietetics, a master of science in nutrition and dietetics. And that is a program that involves a graduate degree with the supervised practice all together. And that is only based in Southwest Virginia, in the Blacksburg and Roanoke area. That's a new program. And then Virginia Tech also has a DPD at the undergraduate level, and then has master's degrees and PhD options in human nutrition, foods, and exercise. And those are not accredited, dietetics programs per se, like the DPD or the internship or the MS in nutrition and dietetics is. So I hope that answers your question. There's a lot to offer. Virginia Tech offers quite a bit, and the internship is just one piece of that. And the Northern Virginia component is just half of the internship component.
Definitely. So how long is your program in each location?
Sure. So the internship is a 9-month full-time experience. So our interns begin in late August and they graduate in early May. So we kind of follow roughly the Virginia Tech academic calendar. So it's a fairly compact program. I think our interns really like being able to graduate in early May and sit for the exam and apply for jobs over the summer, because most of them, find themselves gainfully employed by the end of the summer, whereas some of their peers are, still doing rotations at that point. So we fit a lot into those compact 9 months. But our interns finish the program, they graduate, they overwhelmingly pass the exam and find jobs that are aligned with their professional goals.
So do you offer part-time or is it only full-time?
It is a full-time program. Yeah, so it's 9 months. Like I said, from late August to early May, the interns do rotations 4 days per week, approximately 32 hours. And then we meet for class 1 day per week. And that's usually between 4 and 6 hours of class experiences. And then they also have, some assignments that they have to do, on top of that in class preparation. So when you combine all of those things together, it's definitely a full-time program.
So during that, 1 day a week when the students are in the classroom with their peers and stuff, what do you guys do during that time?
Yeah, we do a lot of different things. We try to keep it really hands-on and fun for the interns, and also, fun for the directors as well. So we spend about half of our class days in person now. Of course, things related, COVID changed the way we do a lot of things. For a while, we were doing all remote class experiences, but we're back in person, which has been wonderful. But we meet in person about half of the time. And then the other half of the time, we will do like Zoom-based classes or integrate some independent learning experiences. And our class days do involve generally a guest speaker. So, the interns don't want to hear me talk about oncology nutrition because I've never worked as an oncology dietitian. So they'd much rather hear from an expert in the field. So we'll bring in, experts who are often preceptors or alumni of our program, and they'll talk about, the nuts and bolts of that particular area of practice, and about their job in general, to kind of give the interns a taste for what it would be like to work in a position like that, and then also just to teach them about the medical nutrition therapy or the science, or just the skill based application of working in that area of practice. So our class days involve guest speakers. We also integrate a lot of discussion. So our interns are responsible for leading a discussion with their peers throughout the year on a topic of professional significance, and they sign up for a topic that interests them. So every intern will lead a professional discussion, and every intern throughout the year will also lead a journal club where they are selecting a peer-reviewed, recently published article on a topic that interests them. And they are kind of analyzing that study and determining some discussion questions and sharing those with their peers in advance. And then we take 30 minutes during class to really kind of dive into that study and talk about the implications of that research. So that's a really great kind of leadership experience for the interns to learn how to, analyze and interpret research, and then lead their classmates in a discussion about it and how it will apply to future practice. So we do guest speakers, we do journal clubs, we do other kinds of discussions. The interns will give presentations. By the end of the program, they've given multiple presentations of varying lengths on various topics throughout the year, so that they graduate feeling very confident in their public speaking skills. And then we do other types of simulation and, role playing and hands-on learning. So we never have class days where interns are just, sitting, taking notes for 4 hours. It's a lot of mixing it up and active learning.
Of course, I feel like besides, the biochemistry and the chemistry and all that stuff, I think 2 things that we don't really get that much during undergrad is, that understanding literature and being able to decipher if it's good, not good or bad, but like what's factual and what's, not. and also
Sure.
public speaking. I feel like I took one class, but that's not going to prepare you for all the people you're going to talk to. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's really good to implement, especially in a program where you have a dedicated time or a designated day per week to focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really valuable part of being an intern, and we want our interns to be able to, graduate from the program and move on into the profession feeling confident in their ability to communicate, through public speaking and also through professional writing as well. And we know that interns come to our program with varying levels of confidence and experience with those things. So we try to integrate those experiences into the program so that they all leave us, feeling like they have those skills.
Of course. So I know you mentioned that each program takes 10 students. So how many students do you typically have apply for your program?
So last year we had 79 applicants for our 20 positions, and they're generally spread fairly evenly between Northern Virginia and Blacksburg. It just kind of depends on the year. Yeah, 79 applications the year last year. There were a few more the year before that, and we'll see what happens this year. Mm-hmm.
Great, but I also know that you have 2 different deadlines. So would you mind talking about them, please?
Absolutely, yeah. So our traditional deadline is February 15th, which is the same as the DICAS and D&D digital deadline. So that's where you just need to have all of your application materials uploaded to DICAS by February 15th to be considered as part of the computer match. Starting this year, we are participating in the pre-select option, and this will just be a small subset of our total positions. So we do have 20 internship positions, and we are looking to fill up to 8 of them, no more than 8, through the pre-select option. And anybody who's interested in that would need to submit their application by January 15th, so a month earlier. And any people that would be eligible for the pre-select option would be individuals who have a verification statement from Virginia Tech, or individuals who have a verification statement from another university who are interested in some of our more outlying geographic areas. So, I direct the Northern Virginia side of the program, which is, kind of all around the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. But we have some sites that are kind of on the outskirts of the DC metropolitan area, and we want to make sure that we're getting really strong applicants that want to live out there and go to those wonderful sites that are out there. So if there is an applicant from University of Maryland or University of Delaware or university from anywhere in the country who wants to be in that area because they have family who live there, or they're really interested in those sites in particular, they would be eligible to apply through the pre-select round. And if they were offered a position at that time, then they wouldn't need to go through the match later on.
Great. And then for students, if someone doesn't get accepted for the pre-select program, are they able to reapply for the regular match?
Yes, absolutely. So we will alert applicants who apply during the pre-select option. We will alert them well in advance of the February 15th deadline to participate in the match. So we expect to alert all applicants by the end of January. And if somebody applies to Virginia Tech through the pre-select, but we're not able to offer them a position during that time, we will automatically consider their application as part of the match round if they register for the match and put Virginia Tech on their list. So we will consider them at that point, and they are certainly welcome to apply to other programs at that point if they want to as well.
Great. So I know obviously what DICAS looks like from the student side, but what does that look like from the internship director's side?
Well, I have to tell you, I don't know what it looks like from the student side. So I'm not sure how different it is, but, we see applicants, submitting all of their materials. We can see if we're waiting on a transcript, or, we're waiting on a reference, that sort of thing. But we get the application, all kind of uploaded together. And we are reviewing it, from start to finish, and really looking at each section equally. So, the applicant's personal statement, their experience, whether it's paid or volunteer, work experience in the field of nutrition, dietetics, or outside of the field of nutrition or dietetics. And then we're looking at their references, and of course their academic performance and their, preparedness in terms of their DPD coursework. So we really don't view one of those areas as more important than any of the others. It's really the whole package, and looking at the applicant holistically, because we recognize that people have really different backgrounds and different skills, and they come to the table with different experiences, and a GPA is not always able to capture that, accurately. So we're looking at academic performance is measured by GPA in DPD coursework, but we also really value the experience that they have, whether it's paid or volunteer, their references, and then just their overall fit for the program in terms of their goals and, what they're looking for out of an internship.
I remember at one of your open houses, you mentioned that there are about 3 or 4 people that look at the applications.
Mm-hmm.
So for a program that doesn't offer interviews, what do the 4 of you guys look at in candidates when you're, going across those applications? I know you said you don't weigh one section heavier than the other, but what are some things that really stand out to you all?
Sure. Yeah, we really do look at those sections of the application equally, and we use, kind of, an objective rubric to score applicants in all of those different areas. So all 4 members of the selection committee will review the application individually, before we talk to each other about it, and then we'll come together as a group, and discuss the applicants and come up with our jointly come up with our list that we're going to submit to D&D Digital for the match. So some things that we're really looking for are, in the references and in their personal statements, we're looking for evidence of, self-direction and flexibility and initiative and, dependability. We want to have interns that, have ideas about what they want to do with their rotation experiences and what their goals are, but also feeling open-minded and flexible, and willing to try on different things that maybe they hadn't considered. We're looking for applicants that, have some solid work experience, and that doesn't need to be, nutrition and dietetics related, and it doesn't need to be paid or volunteer. It can be one or the other. And again, we recognize that people are coming, from different backgrounds and experiences, and we're just looking to see that they have evidence of success in a professional work environment, that they've been accountable, to someone else and demonstrated that they can be successful, in that position.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the Academy is kind of steering away from internships having a concentration, but as of right now, what do you think Virginia Tech's concentration is?
Yeah, so our concentration is leadership and professional development, and we have no plans to get rid of that because it's one of our favorite aspects of our program, and it's honestly one of the things that our interns tell us that they enjoy a lot about our program. So leadership and professional development is here to stay. We incorporate leadership and professional development experiences throughout the program. It's built into a lot of our class day activities. It's built into many of our assignments that are associated with different rotations. And then each intern also does a leadership project of their own design throughout the internship year. And that's generally something that they have something to show for at the end, and they can put that on their resume and talk about it in, in their job interviews in the future. So yeah, we're gonna keep leadership and professional development because we really feel that it applies to any intern, regardless of where they want to work, in their career. So if you want to be, a clinical dietitian, you want to be a nutrition support clinician, you want to go into school nutrition or, community nutrition, you want to be a private practice dietitian, all of those areas, leadership and professional development, those are activities and those are skills and competencies that will serve you well in your career, no matter where that career takes you. We also enjoy having that emphasis because it tends to attract candidates with very different backgrounds and goals, which is great. So we every year have, a class of interns with really diverse interests and goals. And that is wonderful for us as directors, but it's also really wonderful for the interns because they have different perspectives and they see things very differently. And so when we are doing all of these, rich class discussions, people are bringing their varying perspectives and viewing topics through a different lens. And that just makes the discussion that much more dynamic and exciting for everybody.
Most definitely. So like you said earlier, Virginia Tech isn't affiliated with just one hospital or one community center. So
Right.
how do you help your students get their rotations or find preceptors?
So we do all of that work for them. The only preceptor that the interns need to find on their own is their elective preceptor. And we will support them as much as they want through that process as well. But in terms of clinical rotations, food service management, and community nutrition rotations, we set up all of those experiences for our interns based on their interests, their backgrounds, and their goals. So when we learn the names of our interns in April, we almost right away get started, thinking about, okay, what do I want to do for this intern? And we schedule meetings with each of them, in the springtime, well before, the internship program starts, just to learn more about them. They complete a survey, a really in-depth survey, asking them about some of their goals and experiences so that we can spend a large portion of the summer preparing for their internship experiences. And that, through that process, we're able to design a rotation schedule for each intern that aligns with what their goals are and what they're hoping to get out of the program.
So do all students do the same rotation at the same time, or can one student be in clinical, the other one in a community, and then someone else in food service?
Sure. So we aim to start the program in August with all interns doing clinical experiences. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but it works out pretty well almost all of the time. And it's really nice that they can all go through clinical together because they can kind of share their experiences and learn collaboratively that way. Even though they're not at the same site, they're all at different sites. But when we come together, for our class days once a week, and we have all of those discussions, they get to hear about what their classmates are doing and how different sites are different. And it's just a lot of shared learning that way. So in the fall, we aim for all of our interns to be doing clinical experiences. And then when they come back from their winter break, we have about half of them doing management experiences and half of them doing community nutrition experiences. And then we'll kind of flip-flop, to wrap up the program.
Awesome. Is there any, I know you said you wanted to do everybody having clinical at the same time to collaborate, but is there any specific reason why you're doing that first opposed to later on in the program?
The reason we like to start with clinical is there's a couple reasons. I'll start with one of the main reasons is during clinical, that's when you really become very competent in the nutrition care process. So of course you learn that in your DPD classes, but it's, aside from maybe doing some case studies, it's mostly just theoretical, information. When you get into the clinical setting, you're really applying the nutrition care process and seeing how it works, in real life with real people, real patients. Once they become very competent in the nutrition care process in a clinical setting, that's actually the same framework that we use in community nutrition and in management as well. You may not be working directly one-on-one with patients anymore, but it's the same assessment, diagnosis, intervention, and monitoring and evaluation critical thinking process, whether you're in a clinical setting working one-on-one with a patient, or you're in a community nutrition setting and you are working to do a needs assessment to identify a problem and then develop an intervention to solve that problem, in a community setting. So instead of working with one-on-one patients, you're working, with a target population to make a difference as the dietitian. And same thing, even in a management setting, where you are solving challenges and identifying, ways to solve those challenges that are based on a comprehensive needs assessment.
Most definitely. And kind of going back to the clinical, I feel like it's a benefit that each student's at a different location because they're kind of being able to exhibit their leadership experience. So it's not 10 leaders going to the same hospital. You have different, abilities in different locations. And then it's really good to prompt that talking experience, like you mentioned.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, we build some projects and assignments into those rotations also that enable the interns to develop and then showcase some of those leadership skills as well. So one example of that is the Medical Nutrition Therapy Quality Improvement Project, where each intern is tasked with a challenge or an issue or just an idea, even, by their preceptor at their site. And they use, several hours throughout their rotation to, gather the data that they need and develop, a solution to address that issue or that problem. And it's often something that really has an impact on their site. So, just to bring that to light a little bit more, an example of what a quality improvement project might be is determining, which laboratory values, in, our critically ill patients are good predictors of iron deficiency, that sort of thing. Or let's see, we have our, 2 ICUs in this hospital, which one, or how well are we doing in these 2 ICUs comparatively in reaching goal rate of tube feeds for our patients? And collecting that data over time to say, hey, in ICU A, on average, we're reaching goal rate for our tube fed patients in 48 hours, whereas in ICU B, it's taking us 72 hours. Well, what's the cause of that? Why is it taking us longer in ICU B? So how can we address that challenge to improve patient care? So that's just one example of, real difference that an intern can make, at their clinical site through their project to demonstrate their leadership skills and really have a lasting impact.
Definitely. And I guess speaking about MNT, for that component of your internship, I know you have long-term care, outpatient, and then acute. Are students required to be in all 3 for the clinical, or what does that look like for those 3 different, sectors?
Sure. So all of our interns are going to get medicine, surgery experience in an acute care setting. They're all going to get experience with diabetes management, renal, working with older adults, working in an outpatient setting, doing some nutrition counseling, cardiology, all of those standard clinical settings. But what that actually looks like from week to week can vary based on the sites that the intern is going to. So, so we have, for example, this year, I have one intern where, she's done about 6 weeks of long-term care already. And then she's going to do about 4 weeks of outpatient experience. And then she's going to do about 5 weeks of acute care. That contrasts that with, now that's an intern who has a lot of interest in dietetics, mostly in more of the community management and outpatient areas. Then I have another intern who is really excited about all things, clinical. So she's doing about 10 weeks of acute care at, a 900 bed teaching hospital. Doing some, more enrichment experiences in outpatient oncology and critical care pediatrics. So it really just sort of depends on what the intern is interested in, what the site has available at that time, and kind of how we can kind of fit those jigsaw pieces together. Traditionally speaking, I have had all interns do at least a short long-term care experience, but that's been a lot more challenging during COVID because of just restrictions and trying to limit access to the number of people that are coming in and out of the building, which is completely understandable. And the reason I've had interns, I really wanted them to have that long-term care experience is because so few of them have it coming into the program, and they don't have any baseline experience as to what it's going to be like. And so often they're very pleasantly surprised by how much they enjoy it. So I really find that that's a really fun aha moment as a director, to have an intern go into a site either not knowing what to expect or not thinking they're going to love it. And they come out and they're like, I'm so glad I had that experience. I learned a lot, and I could really see myself at some point working in that setting because it was so different than what I anticipated. So
that's awesome. Yeah, like you said, I don't feel like many people get that, experience with the older population. So I'm glad that you guys try to implement that for everybody to get that experience.
We really try to. Again, it just sort of depends on what's available, but some interns, maybe they may not have an opportunity to do it during the clinical component, but then we have, a wonderful long-term care speaker who comes and talks for a couple hours about her job and, what it's like to be in long-term care clinical dietitian. And then those are the interns that are like, I think I might want to do that as my elective later on because, I checked all the boxes of everything else I wanted to do in the program. So I didn't get to do long-term care. And so I'd like to spend 2 weeks at the end doing that. And we can try to make that happen for them.
And that also speaks to your program's flexibility as well, which I think is, you're individually managing 10 people, but not at one location. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
It is a lot of work. It's a lot of moving parts, but that's one of the things that makes it exciting because, like you said, we can be flexible and we can pivot sometimes when needed to be able to meet, an intern's, learning needs and goals. And sometimes new opportunities arise throughout the year that we didn't anticipate and we weren't planning for those. Then, we don't want to say thanks, but no thanks, just because it's not, it's not part of the plan. Exactly. So, so we really try to take advantage of opportunities as they arise.
Awesome. And then I guess my last question would be, what's a piece of advice that you have for students that are looking to apply to the NOVA or Blacksburg in Virginia Tech Internship?
Thank you for asking that question. I would say definitely attend an open house. I know it seems like there's a lot of information on our website, and there is a lot of information on our website, but you'll learn so much more by coming to an open house. And I hope you feel, Emily, that you did, learn a lot when you came to our open house, much more so than you would have just by, perusing the website. I think the open house is a really excellent opportunity to really experience the culture of an internship program and to see what would it be like to be an intern here, getting to meet the director and see kind of day to day what's happening in that program, and also to have an opportunity to ask questions directly to the director and the interns. So our open house, we structure it, as you know, Emily, where we give a formal presentation and then we take questions, from participants, and then we set up breakout rooms so that applicants or prospective applicants can go and talk directly to current interns from either the Northern Virginia or the Blacksburg location without Carol and I being present, so no director there. And that's a really valuable kind of candid time where the interns can open up and really talk about what their experience has been, and the prospective applicants can feel, safe asking questions of those interns. And we want them to be candid and answer those questions honestly, because we want prospective applicants to have all the information they need to make an informed decision about where they want to be an intern. It's a big choice and it's a lot of time that you spend being an intern, and we want our interns to want to be here and to be happy while they're here. So we want them to get all the information they need in order to make that decision that's right for them.
Definitely. I will admit that I did do that. I looked because I know a lot of UMD students went through your program.
Yeah.
So I talked to them, talked to a few of the graduates that are now in like Johns Hopkins in that area.
Sure.
And yeah, it was awesome. So I also know that on this in January on the 7th, you guys are maybe looking to have an in-person open house.
We are, yeah. It's going to be more an informal meet and greet, so it's not going to involve a formal presentation. So we are still aiming to do that on Friday, January 7th, and we would like anybody who's interested in coming in person. We would like for them to attend a virtual open house first, so that they can just get all that information that they need. And so that they're prepared for that in-person kind of meet and greet, because we're gonna treat that January 7th event more as just an opportunity to get to know each other and get to talk to the interns. It's not going to be like a formal presentation.
Awesome. And then I guess the last thing I'll mention is that for people that are listening, there is an open house virtual on the 5th at 7 p.m., correct?
So there is a virtual open house tomorrow at 2 p.m. and then January 5th at 7 p.m. So we still have 2 virtual open houses remaining. So tomorrow, which is December 2nd at 2 p.m. and then Wednesday, January 5th at 7 p.m. And those are Eastern times.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time out to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me, Emily. I appreciate being here. Have a great afternoon.